Symfony, great framework, PHP, right? And then you move to another company and all of a sudden you do TypeScript, Node, everything's different, right? I mean, and that's my point. Everything's different, but is it? I don't think it is so much different, right? Because if you look at it, um, not to mention that, but PHP was kind of typed, right? Nothing compared to TypeScript, right? It's way better in TypeScript, but still. Changing stack should not be something yet that you should be afraid of, right? Because it's okay. If you are a developer, if you know the web, whether it is TypeScript, PHP, even Java or whatever you want, right? You're gonna make it happen, right? That's okay. It's not about the tech. It's about architecture, knowing what is the web, knowing HTTP. You know, one thing that I always ask when I do interview is, can you explain HTTP? You know, can you explain how it's working? And if the answer is correct, okay, how about HTTPS? What's the difference? What the interaction, you know, certificate and everything. And so, yeah, but I was scared like everybody else, running around shit, Node, I don't know. But yeah, if you like what you do, you just deep dive and you learn. And nowadays, I mean, not to mention AI, right? We have to talk a little bit about AI, but 3 years ago, it was not that great. But now it's so easy to find documentation. It's so easy to try out things, to learn by yourself, that if you want to, you can, right? It's just a matter of getting I think what is hard for the new developers right now is to get the first professional experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with the advent of AI, it more so is even just you need to know how the architecture of like coding in general works, how the program is processed, how the flow of because you don't really need to know syntax as much because AI kind of knows the syntax. You really need to know how business rules work and how the functionality of these core principles work, like what you said. And because like if you know only syntax, if you only know Java syntax, and then you jump to a new company and they don't use Java, they use like Symfony or PHP or I don't know, something like that, and you don't know the underlying like core coding principles, then it's kind of like you're in an awkward position because you know one language really, really well, but you don't know the step up of abstraction of like the second layer. So, but I think that's a very important thing to kind of have. Like you want to know the underlying stuff.
Yeah, you want the basics. You want to know the foundation, right? This is the most important, right? And before it was not so different, right? Some people would go to Stack Overflow and copy paste. Now, just the process is simpler now. You can vibe code, but it's not so different, right?
Yeah, and in my experience, at least, historically, generalists have always excelled more than others in this industry. And people who understand programming more than coding, or whatever you want to call it, right, is people who have succeeded, in my experience.
People who succeeded in which way, right? People who are shipping stuff. I think most important is to ship stuff, even if it's not your main job. You know, everything that I learn, usually it's less and less true with Crystallize, because as a startup, we kind of want to innovate. So we're trying new stuff, you know, we're using Cloudflare, we're using some cool stuff. But before, in the web agency, if I wanted to learn something new, I would not risk it on a client project. So you need a side project, a real things, not just doing an hello world, right? It's something small where you want to progress, and then you start to use crazy new technology so you can learn them, right? That's definitely, to me at least, the way. And it's hard at the beginning, right? Because you say, okay, I want to do that. You have a really good idea. I want to ship it tomorrow, right? But then if you force yourself to try another tech, you will struggle at first, but pretty quickly you get it done, and then you've learned something new that you will probably reuse at work. And this is where you stay ahead of the competition, right? And not what is the competition in your own company, but the more you learn, the more ready you will be when someone is going to bring a new tech somewhere, right?
Right, because the tech is always going to be evolving and everything like that. There's always going to be a new tech stack that's always going to be dropping something, and it's always going to be a complete breaking change that's going to fundamentally change the industry. So you've always got to be in that learning mindset, especially in this type of culture.
And this is, if we look back to San Francisco, this is what is kind of cool in this city, right? And also other cities, but where the tech is kind of present, it's like you're going to meet people who are trying something, and that's going to be the topic of discussion of maybe 50% of the people, right? Which might be annoying for some, but if you like it, it's kind of cool. Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I love every second of it. I recently moved here to the area, and it's constantly conversations about new projects and new ideas and new initiatives and experiments. And I don't know. It's crazy how you can just walk into a random cafe and strike up a conversation with a stranger, and they'll likely be a programmer. I don't know. I love it. So I'm quite curious to hear your opinion on investing time into adopting new technologies. So we've talked a bit about you shifting from PHP Symfony to Node.js, TypeScript, and whatnot. Nowadays, I think we're growing faster than ever, and we can see JavaScript frameworks being created every day or major updates being dropped. How do you decide what technologies to invest your time into?
Well, if I have the perfect answer on that one, that would be awesome. I don't. I think first you need to understand the tech, right? So understand, not that you need to know everything, but you need to at least grasp where they are. What is the main topic? Why are we talking about this tech versus another tech? Like, let's take an example. Something that I didn't do a lot before, that I do a lot now with Crystallize, is staying up to date about all the front-end framework, like the back-end for front-end framework, like Astro, Next, Remix, Svelte, Stacks, and everything, right? How do you pick the correct framework, right? And what is good versus bad for your use case, right? So you need to grasp, to me, the most important. So if we take an example, we know that Astro, most likely, it's better, and I'm probably wrong, right? If we have Astro lover listening, they're going to say, yeah, he doesn't know shit about Astro. I'm not saying that I know. I'm saying that Astro, it's probably better for static website documentation with Astro Starlight and stuff like that, right? Probably this is the good part, right? Then if you want to do a lot of server-side kind of things, you have a lot of API endpoint, but a little bit of front end, you might want to go with React Router, right? Because this is what they advertise, right? That you have server-side first, and then you have loaders, etc. Then if you are in the middle, or maybe a little bit more beginner, and you don't care if it's too magic, then maybe you go with Next.js, because this is their point, right? Like how to build as fast as possible something that is still performant, maybe with a little bit of magic. But, to me, this is how I would organize those. And how do you do that? How do I know that? Right? You read stuff, right? You read, you watch video on YouTube. You do the yellow word. You go online, you think about something, and you don't know. Well, you go check the doc, you install the project, you do the yellow word, and then you try to play a little bit, an hour, an hour and a half, not building a real project, but just to grasp one of the idea.
Do you find yourself with like new projects and like new frameworks and all that stuff that come out? Do you find yourself starting little side projects to kind of understand like the core fundamentals of those? Because I see like whenever a new framework or something like that comes out, I'll start and think of a little idea, and I'm like, oh, hey, let me see if I can implement this idea to kind of challenge myself in this new way type thing. Do you find yourself doing that a lot?
Oh yeah, all the time. And sometimes you revamp another project that you have, right? Just to see, how simpler it could be if you use another framework or another library, right? Then the last new framework, the cool kid around to me, it's like Ono.js. A lot of people are using Ono.js. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's like replacement for Koa, Express, Fastify, whatever, right? So you want to try it, I would see how it goes, and doesn't mean you have to use it in production, right? But at least you have some kind of knowledge, you know the difference, and yeah, that's some people. It's just some kind of passion, right? So people are reading a lot of stories, we read a lot of code, and we try out some frameworks. But I think it's really important, if you love this, to stay up to date, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you don't even have a clue of what it is, right?